Hi, I'm Warren Nibbs, a student from the Bridge Academy in Hackney. This documentary will show you the positives and negative effects on the social network. We are going to focus on Facebook, Twitter and Ask FM. Over to you, Sarah.
Good afternoon, Ms. Cara.
Good afternoon, Sarah.
Thanks for taking this time to speak with us.
No worries.
Have you ever seen any negative effects on social networks?
I have actually. Something quite upsetting happened to me on Twitter, and yeah, it's made me feel a bit funny about the whole thing.
Have you ever received any unpleasant tweets on Twitter?
Yes, definitely. So if I explain the story, basically I was interviewed by a Times journalist who wrote an online article about women on the internet who write articles about education. And I said, and her point was that there are not many women who write articles about education because they're a bit intimidated. And I agreed with her and I said, yeah, I think actually there are lots of men who write articles about education, but not very many women. And then one of the men that she talked about in the article tweeted basically saying, who does she think she is? She isn't a very good writer, that's why people don't read her stuff, they read mine. And then loads of people got involved. And because it's also public, they ended up kind of saying, oh, calm down, dear. And it was all very kind of really sexist. And he wrote a blog post about me as well, basically saying, this is ridiculous, she's just complaining about nothing. And I wasn't really complaining, I was just making an opinion. But it got really nasty, and some people said some really rude things on my blog, my education blog, because they were saying, basically, get back in your box, don't make a fuss. And I was like, well... And then what I actually had to do was block that person being harmful.
Did it hurt you?
Yeah, I think it was really hurtful actually, because I think you should be able to give your opinion without somebody being horrible to you. I would never reply to someone on the internet and say you're ridiculous or say something rude, because I wouldn't say it to that person's face. But I think there are people on the internet who think because you can't see them, they can just say what they like.
Yeah, was it behind the screen?
Yeah, exactly, it's hiding.
Thank you, Ms. Cara, for giving up your time to speak with us.
It's an absolute pleasure.
To family and friends, Hannah Smith was bubbly and happy. But on Ask FM, she received messages telling her to kill herself. Her father thinks online bullies drove her to her death. In a statement, Dave Smith said, Ask FM and sites like this are making millions out of people's misery, and it is wrong. I would appeal to David Cameron as a Prime Minister and a father to look at this, to make sure these sites are properly regulated so bullying of vulnerable people like my daughter cannot take place.
Hi Gemma.
Hello.
So I've heard that you have friends abroad that you speak over to Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do. Quite a few, maybe over 10 of my Facebook friends are from different countries.
Yeah, and if you didn't have Facebook, would you actually keep in touch?
When we stopped seeing each other face to face, we did say we were going to keep in touch and email each other, and that never really happened. And then either they found me on Facebook or I found them on Facebook, and then since then we've communicated quite a bit. Like if I post a picture of something that I'm doing, they'll say something, make a comment, or if they somewhere in their country, then I might say something about it. So it's a way for us just to kind of speak a little bit. Like they wouldn't send me a long message, but we communicate in a way that you would do if you saw a friend.
And these friends in general, did you know them before they actually you split up? Did you know them actually in school times or?
No, they're not old friends. So I was working, because before I did this job I worked teaching English as a foreign language. So I lived in China for 6 months, and a lot of my students, because they were university students, so they were in their 20s, so we sort of had a bit in common. and so we made friends, like away from me just being their teacher. So we decided to keep in touch that way. But it's a little bit difficult for them because in China the Facebook is banned, so not all of them were able to keep in touch with me, which is quite sad. Other students that I had were from like Turkey or like South America and other places, and we kind of keep in touch quite a bit. And I think if they came over here again to visit and they needed some help in some way, I'd help them out, yeah, because they are like, you know, good friends of mine, but I just don't see them. So if it wasn't for Facebook, we wouldn't have that friendship.
Yeah, that sounds about it. So this is one of the positive effects of Facebook. If Facebook wasn't invented, Gemma would not be able to actually contact her friends abroad. So that is one effect, positive effect. Yeah, that sounds about it. So this is one of the positive effects of Facebook. If Facebook wasn't invented, Gemma would not be able to actually contact her friends abroad. So that is one effect, positive effect.
Mr. Foster, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure.
We would like to ask you about the use of Twitter within the academy.
Well, it's mainly with the sixth form. It's set up in a particular way so students have access to staff account, and it's basically designed to facilitate the learning. So if students have got questions or concerns, they can raise them via the Twitter account. That's the gist.
Before Twitter was used in the academy, did you use Twitter any other like schools or anywhere else?
No.
You've never. Did you yeah.
As Bridge Academy wants to become a pioneer of technology within Hackney, how do you feel the school is progressing in this area?
Well, I think you can see from around the academy itself, there's a lot more ICT that's being used. There's a lot more strategies in terms of ICT. The Microsoft and Cisco in the sixth form is fairly unique. We're the only school in the country that has both academies inside the school, so that's quite extensive.
Well, can you tell us an example of a positive way Twitter is used in this academy? Can you tell us?
Yeah, well, Mr. Shaughnessy uses a lot in her English lessons, year 13, and basically what she does, she sends out the work and they basically respond via the Twitter account to the work and are able to negotiate particular aspects of her learning before they go to the lesson.
In your opinion, are there any negative effects that come with Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything in essence. If you put it out on Twitter, Facebook, it's basically the same as writing on a wall. It's never going to be removed. So whatever you do on there has to be acceptable not only to you as the person sending it, but to the person who's receiving it, and for the people outside to see it as well. So as long as it's within constraints of